we're back. Say hi to FL Studio because we got another one. You're now looking at the production project file for Crystal Clear featuring Evoke. That just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Out now everywhere as part of Exobolt's latest compilation 011. The eagle-eyed among you might have already noticed in the upper left corner of the screen that doesn't say Crystal Clearer. It says Crystal Clear 3. So yeah, what's up with that? Well, to those who have been following me for a long time, you might remember that in June of 2016, I released a little song called Crystal Clear. It was this really uplifting mid-tempo song, and when I was working on it, I already knew that it had something special about it, but I wasn't ready for what happened next. The song absolutely blew up everywhere it went, and it's now my most popular song ever, and it'll likely be the first Modus song to reach 6 figures very soon. It's at like 98,000 now. So yeah, 6 figures, 100,000 plays, which is just unreal. Just try to picture that many people in a line. How long would that line be? Since that song was very well received, I did what any other sane producer would have done, and that's make another one. Crystal Clear VIP, released just a few months later that same year in Dreamscape Records. Rest in peace, Dreamscape. That one was house, so the tempo went up a little bit, and then a few years passed, and I remember this very iconic melody, na 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 na, and I go, I think I want to revisit this again because it's just such a cool melody, and I've done this many other times with No Return Reboot, for example. So in 2019, I sit down in front of my computer, and after a few weeks of cookage, Crystal Clear 2 comes out, and it's even faster BPM. It's 150, I think it was. I named it like that. I named it Crystal Clear 2 because Crystal Clear VIP wasn't that catchy. And then an entire pandemic later, that could be either 4 years or 400 years. I mean, it definitely feels like both at the same time. I get an idea for a brand new song. So it's like na 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 da do da do. And then I go, hey, this has that vibe. This sounds a lot like Crystal Clear, doesn't it? And I could have resisted and gone down a different path with this idea, but that's not how great art happens. So I just went, you know what? Let's just fully lean into it, because why the hell not? And that's how this very nostalgic mix of old and new happened. It was called Crystal Clear 3 for a long time, but then I looked at the naming scheme again and thought, okay, the first one is Crystal Clear, the second one is Crystal Clear VIP, the third one is Crystal Clear 2, and the fourth one is Crystal Clear 3. That's a terrible naming scheme. So I just gave it a different name. And by different name, I mean I changed 2 letters. And then last year, once I had like 70 to 80% of the song done, right after New Year Protocol 8 released, I got a DM from Evoke. And he told me, I've listened to your AU5 Dragonfly remix with my vocals, and I really like it. We should work on something together. And you don't turn down Evoke. So I went through my catalog at the time, and I remember this one. I said, boy, do I have just the tune for you. And the rest is history. So yeah, we're going to be looking at the production project first. So this one doesn't have vocals. It's the instrumental version of the track. And then we'll go on to the mixing mastering project so you can actually see the vocal editing I did on Evoke's performance. But yeah, it's going to sound a little bit lonely and a little bit empty for a while before we actually get to Evoke's vocals. But cool. Let's start with the beginning. That is not the beginning. All right, there it is. So I just start with that. What I did is I have some chords here. And it's this. That is actually just a sine wave. The sine wave with a big crusher. To prove it, I'll turn off the big crusher. And it's just sine waves. And there it is. And then I just have a square bass. That is pretty thick. And then I just low passed it. Not sure why this high pass is there, but yeah. So yeah, this high pass, not sure why it was there, but yeah, I just used that for there it is, and I just used that for the first few notes of the intro bass, and yeah, and basically the same thing goes for the chords. I try to build a little bit of a melody within these chords. So you'll see it goes like nan, na nan, and then na nan, na nan, na nan. So there's a little bit of that melody ingrained in the chords already, but now we have the lead. And the melody goes as follows. Without any effects, that's what it sounds like, and it's probably just a square. Yep, it's a square, and it has an ADSR envelope, and then it has a little bit of a pitch LFO for that like vibrato effect, right? It has like the slightest bit of it, and then it has a tiny pinch at the very beginning for that like transient effect. It's subtle, but it's there. And then there's a dimension expander. Not sure why it's all the way up. Should probably be around there. And then there's a patcher that's a frequency splitter into a frequency shifter. So what must have happened here... Yeah, I think I know what's going on here. So there's a frequency shifter here that when I take a frequency splitter, I'm basically soloing this high band here, and this high band I'm sending it to the frequency shifter, and I'm turning up the feedback on the frequency shifter, so it gives me this like really LFO-y kind of sound to it. So without it, and with it, there's like that tiny bit of feedback of like frequency shifter LFO feedback going into that plug for just a little bit more movement in there. And then there's an OTT, because of course you can't live without an OTT. And then there's just a massive phone preset EQ to basically invalidate that OTT, now that I think about it. And then there's a crowd chamber with the Fat Pack preset, so that makes it a little bit more roomy, more spacious, right? And then there's finally a Tora verb that's currently off, but it'll turn itself on in various parts of the song. And this is already doing a simplified version of the main leitmotif that's going to be in the first drop, that na 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 na. So here it's doing dun 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 da 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 na 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 na. Right? So yeah, it's doing like a very simplified version of that. And then I bounced this first chord, I bounced that, and I reversed it. And that's how I made that intro synth. And as you can see, whoa, what was that? And then there's an automation here. This is the Tora verb that I just mentioned. See that? That tiny reverb swell. So if I didn't do this, there's a massive gap here. Right? It's just a massive gap of silence. That's not very interesting. So to make the wait a little bit easier, I'm going to add just the tiniest bit of auditory feedback, just to keep you engaged, to let you know that there's something coming after that, and the song didn't just end at the 1 second mark. So it basically eases into the next chord, you know? And as you can see, we've already got some bounces of previous Crystal Clear songs, so we've got a bunch of them. So this comes from the original Crystal Clear, and I'm pretty sure this comes from the very end of the track. Since I've got it reversed, it would be here at the beginning of the sample. So the original Crystal Clear sounds a little something like this. Pretty clean for a 2016 track of mine, honestly. This is about as good as I could do in 2016. Yeah, Sky, basically saying please don't leave. It's just a really fun track. I love it. So yeah, if we skip to the end, there's just this mega chord at the end, you know? And it goes on for a really long time. Even after the sub bass goes away. So what I did is just, I took that and I reversed it. Same thing here. And then I went here. And I turned up 1 octave with Stretch Pro. And then there are some samples in here. This is from Color Ringtone. This is from Bejeweled Twist. Because you know I love using Bejeweled Twist samples. And then there's a few Shards samples in here. Ah, I know what this is. This is actually a bass jam that I did precisely for this track. It has something to do with Harmor and then like some spectral gating going on probably. Yeah. It probably has to do with that. So there's some sort of phased razor going on, and then I'm vocoding it or like doing some sort of morph to it. And I'm basically like color basifying it, and then I just throw a spectral gator on everything at the end. And then I just get that, right? And then I have an assortment of other effects, and there's some delay hiding here. I don't know why it was hiding there. And then there's also a bit of reverb and a tiny bit of EQ to get rid of one frequency that I probably didn't like. Final result. There it is. And then there's some delay to keep that sound going after that for the next section, right? There's a slow and a fast version, and I'm combining both of them. And then there's an AU5 zap in here from Alien Weapon. Ah, oh, just that. It's the best zap I've heard in a while. And then I've got my my usual drums, and of course, no Modus song is complete without at least one of these two crashes: cymbal crash acoustic or cymbal crash huge. Crash huge is actually further down the track. There it is. There's that huge. So yeah, no Modus track is complete without either of these. And I actually thought about starting this intro with the same sticks as the first drop. So the first drop has not the first drop. It's where the vocals start. And then right there's those like rides and sticks. Dang, 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 dang. There it is. There's that. And I thought about starting this same section with those sticks as well. So that is something that could have happened. So yeah, in an alternate universe, this is not muted and this made it to the final song. Hey Natans, what's up? Hello everyone. Yeah, there's no vocals in here, so it's gonna feel pretty weird. There's a studio drummer in here. It's actually not bounced at all. Just wait for it. Give it a moment. It will load eventually. Yeah, there it is. Just trust it, bro. So yeah, there's a studio drummer, and it's dealing with these really cool acoustic drums. And then I have a bit of a chain on it. So without any effects, it sounds like this. Definitely sounds a tad more raw. So there's a soft clipper, there's an EQ. That's a very odd looking EQ. Here's a mega mind trick to basically achieve the same effect as a high pass, but without a lot less phase shift. Instead of doing a high pass filter like this, right? Like there's a lot of phase shift that happens with that. See what this does? That does a lot, right? If you instead just do a peak bell and you make it very wide like this, and then you just put it in here, see how much less phase shift happens? It's pretty weird, but it works. Yeah, I just boosted the fundamental of that kick a little bit and just reworked things a little bit to make them less boomy and more airy. And then I did a Pro MB to limit some of that top end noise. And then there's a slight OTT. You just make it a little bit more punchy, you know? One final EQ to make it even less boomy. And then the pretty balance, I presume, for some later parts of the song where I might want it louder or just... Oh, there it is. So it's just for like muting, right? So this leaves a bit of a tail. See how the tom leaves a bit of a tail? And because I wanted these bits to be like fully muted so the vocal could come in. So it's like... Pause. Pause, right? I needed the studio drummer to basically mute entirely. So that's what I did the pretty balance on there. Okay, now let's touch on this. Oh, wow. There's a bunch of things going on in there. Okay. So we got again these same chords, these same crushed sine wave chords. That's a really long delay. And then we've got a another melody on top, which is coming from... It's a Dune, okay. And here's the Dune 3, okay. Frozen Bottle Arc. It's a patch. Sounds like that. So yeah, there's that for a little bit of a mini motif in there. And then there's a bit of an ARP to aid the tone fills in here. Right? And then there's also a bass in here. That's already sort of teasing that first motif from the first drop. Na, 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 na. So that's a pretty busy bass line. There's an 808 sub in here to like reinforce some of that sub area. And then we've got a moto bass, which goes like this. And yeah, there's that reverb at the end. I thought about doing the bass in here as well. That ended up being a little bit too bassy for what I wanted to do. And we're not anywhere close to the drop just yet. So like, let's not make it that bassy. It doesn't need to be that bass heavy yet. And then we've already got these drop plugs. Na, na, na. Right? Na, na. And then na, na. There it is. And then we've got the sauce from the intro as well. Through my soul. And I have no idea why I did this. No. On the super saws, right? And why is it not there? Oh, because there's a tape stop in there. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I guess it's a little bit audible. No, it's like the tiniest bit audible, but like just on its own. When you play it with the kick and like everything, it goes away entirely. Not sure why I did that. I guess I just wanted the saws by themselves to sound cool. No. So yeah, there's a super saw instance there. I need to find the mixer track. There it is. There's a tape stop. So it stops when I wanted to, and I made sure to tweak the stop time so it would stop at the exact time I wanted it to. So it would basically like time itself. The tape stop would time itself with the song. Bam, bam. Right? There's a bit of a high pass and low pass on an EQ. Basically, this is for less of that bright top end. Yeah, this just makes it a little bit softer on the ear. There's a filter. And as the tape stop is happening, the filter is doing the same thing. Going down. And there's a flanger that's not actually on in this part. Maybe it becomes active somewhere else down the track. All right, we gotta talk about that bass. Okay. So this is a Harmer bass. This is actually the same bass. This is the lead bass in Engine Start. So it's the same bass. And I reused this preset as a complementary bass to the super saw. And then what I did, there's an EQ, like there's all the regular processing that I would do on it. And then I did this little thing. It's called Talkbox. And what this is, it's an EQ that takes the lower region, that takes a very narrow peak bell and just moves it around like this. And this creates some really cool like Talkbox-like effects. And you're gonna see when it's on. See that? You get that just by boosting a region, a narrow region, and just moving it around. And the automation for that is this. There it is. That's the automation that I found out worked best. That took some setting up. But yeah, it just makes it so much more groovy, because if it weren't there, it's pretty flat. But yeah, this very small change, it just adds that groove that's really distinctive of this track, right? It's like basically like bonus style points for this track. And then I just have this bass complement with the sub. All right, so we have this tape stop. It's basically a conglomerate, a composite of this. I did that, and then I combined it probably with the middle bass in here, yeah. I combined these two on a sample, and I just tape stopped it. See that? And then I combined this with some layers from Crystal Clear 2. It's already got those shards built in there, right? And there's some snippets from the VAP as well. And there's a sub drop. Goes down. It's a pretty cinematic sounding sub drop, I'll tell you that much. Yeah. Nice. And then there's an Ultra Verb pad for my Ultra Nova pack. And there's a piano. And that already tells you the intro motif. There's a bass in here that's just gonna jump around to make it more rhythmic. Alright, there it is. At one point I have 3 octaves working on the same time. So 3 octaves playing the same note, just for that fullness in the piano, you know? Nobody's gonna be playing this by hand anytime soon, so might as well just use as many octaves as I can. I actually had this. I planned on this. I eventually decided against it. But yeah, there's another alternate universe where this was in, and this made it to the final cut. Yep. See through my soul, clearer than crystal. I butchered that. Take me all out. It's too late to look back now. I'm definitely not as good as Evoke is doing falsetto. So yeah, we've just basically got these same saws. And yeah, we've also got a bit of a melody built in. No, no, and then again, no, and then again. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. So it's basically just that, a very strong studio drummer hit. Just that. Yeah, just bass. There's a reverse kick for some reinforcement in the low end. Boom. See that? It just makes it very strong. Okay. Not a whole lot more to look at here. Without vocals, this is gonna sound really boring. Okay. So there's this set of chords as the cadence. More on this later, because we've got a bit of a variation later down the song in the breakdown. We'll touch on that. And I've got this hyper growl from Agent. And I think I did some effects to it. I did a filter with a high pass. Yeah, I did some things here. So it starts fully high pass, and then it filters down, and then back up, and then back down. And I wanted to reinforce some of those bass notes. Modus trying not to write in sacred progressions. This isn't, it really isn't that much. It's just D, C, G, and then G, A, B flat, F major, A, and then D major again. Well, it's actually more like D sus4. 1, 7, 4, 4, 5, 6, 3, 5, 1. In the scale for like tones. You understand that? So yeah, there's a zap. And then we actually began with the groovage. So yeah, there's a continuous super saw. Lots of voices. And eventually it becomes more and more stabbed as the build-up goes. So it starts fully continuous and then starts chopping it up. And then it gets shorter and shorter. Alright. There is. And then there's a secondary layer, which does a higher octave. So in reality, the super saws here are twofold. There's two layers to this. There's the super saw layer. And then there's another layer, which I believe it's is this one. Yeah, this is an automaton. Specifically, it's my automaton. The same automaton that you use with Honk the Automaton on this very stream, that stream channel point reward. So yeah, I recorded a one-shot of my automaton. That automaton, exactly. Oh god, it's so dead. It's so dead. Oh god, the batteries are about to die. It's so dead. So yeah, I just recorded a small one-shot of it. Right, and I just high-passed it a bit. No, not high-passed it. That's just how thin it sounds. And it actually just filled up some space in the sauce quite well. I just really liked how the automaton layer with the super sauce sounded. It sounded pretty cool. Yeah, there it is. And yeah, there's the those drop plucks. And then there's a Keanu Reeves. So yeah, it's just a sample from, I believe, Oceano as well. It's a Reese. Pretty cool Reese. I call it Keanu Reeves. Ah, there's a glide in there. And then there's a filter in there as well with a high pass. Wow, it's pretty cool. Nice. And then there's a filter on the sidechain bus. Okay, so on the entire sidechain bus, so all the instruments except for the kick and the snare, there's a general high pass that just does its job on every single instrument in the track. See that? All right, and then there's you might remember this for the Follow the Bouncing Bass tune. It's the song is called Willpower. It's the Feedback Hour anthem on this stream, on the show. And it's the same sound for that song. It's literally the same preset. Willpower stab. It's the same sound. The Feedback Hour sound. So yeah, it's just like a big old mix of lots of things from here and there. So yeah, you combine that with the Reese. And with the saws. With the drop plucks. with an uplifter that's also made out of an automaton. It's called the Otama lifter. And then the bass. And finally, the drum bus. All right. Shark snare, because why not? Okay, so there's a moto bass bounce here. Bro, this is, I think, no, not quite. It's that's not an 808 sub. It's just a sine wave with a square layer on top, and then on top of that is a detuned saw that's had its fundamental removed. So it's basically like a perfect key tracked high pass. So the fundamental of the saw doesn't collide with the sine wave sub that we've got right below it. It just acts as a layer to this other sub. So when you combine both, you get this really full, because you get the odd harmonics from the square and all the other harmonics from the saw as well. So you get this really full sound. Goes down to that low B flat, and then you've got this. This is a bass guitar that's been tape stopped, right? And then you've got the main plug from the first stop, but I added a spectral gate to it, and then I just did that melody in there. Got some EQing done to it, and it's got this Le Funk on it. This is basically like a fancier or like a more aggressive version of disperser. Not doing quite a bit, but it's a bit like an all-pass filter, right? And then yeah, some final tonal balancing, and there it is. And then there's just that nice sub drop to introduce the first drop, and we've got these other sounds, some agent glitches, a zap from, so this is that one time where I made the first drop for Spectra, and a bunch of people sent me samples, and one of them was this good zap. I just did that, so I reused it here in crystal clearer. And this is a synth from Siren Soul. I believe this is from the Color Bass Volume 3 pre-save sample pack. Ah, my memory is pretty good. Pre-save bonus, Color Bass Volume 3. Let's go. Okay, first drop. There's not a lot going on, as you can tell by the absence of anything but 2 patterns and then a bunch of drums. So let's have a look at this. It's just a kick and a crash, some hats, and then the snare, which is 2 layers. There's this. It's a tiny snare, yeah. This is from Over Me, so all the way back in Color Bass Volume 1, 2019, Rushdown. The first Over Me, so, to cover me, watching me, can see through me, that tune. I took that snare from here, and then other snare, so I combined the 2, and I basically got a slightly punchier version of this. See that? And on every other snare, I have this pre-clap thing, right? That precedes the snare and just gives it a really tasty, you know? There is actually no snare 03 in this track. Remarkable, right? Right, there it is. And as for the kick, I believe this is just a kick from Supernova. Yep, Supernova. God, I'm sharp. All right, we have an 808 sub. Well, there's a bunch of things going on in here. All right, CC Bean. This actually is an 808 sub this time. There it is. That's a sample in there. I used an actual 808 sample. I believe this is from Robin sample pack. Got that, and then I added a disperser, and it sounds like this. It adds that tiny bit of click at the beginning. But without it, right? Got like watery pinch on it or something. Definitely makes it sound tastier. This sounds like a pop, like a digital pop that would happen whenever there's something wrong with the audio. This sounds like an intentional transient to that 808, right? It just helps to that. There's that same stab from Feedback Hour, so this is basically Feedback Hour 3. Follow the bouncing bass. In fact, if I take out the melody, this basically just becomes Feedback Hour. Follow the bouncing bass. And then I believe there's a gritty noise layer. Yep, there's that. So this is an additional sub layer. I basically did a sub and a noise, and then I filtered the noise. I did a high pass on the noise, and then I distorted, compressed, and filtered. So basically the final result is this. It's that, right? It's just a sub with noise. When you distort it, comes that. You compress it, it gets a little quieter. You filter, it gets the sub away. It takes the sub away because we already have a sub in that 808, right? So I just want the additional noise that comes with that. I just want that tiny gritty noise layer. Right, that just gives it a tiny bit more grit. It's audible in there, right? All right. What about the plucks? There's a bunch of layers going on in here. For example, let's go over one of them. This would be the first one, would it? Nope, this is actually further on in the track. Okay, let's focus on something else. We got another one-off somewhere in there. Yep. And then what about this one? This sounds like it's fun. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so let's focus on our first layer. All right, so this is basically a music box, right? But as you can see, there's more to this than just a music box, right? So we can turn all of the effects off and listen to the raw sound. And there's that. It's just a music box. And then there's another layer, which is this. This is the square lead, also from Willpower. It's just a square. The square with some filtering, make it more plucky. There it is. Got some more. There's this thing called CC3 plug, which, well, stands for Crystal Clear 3 plug. It sounds like this. This is a direct wave preset. Holy crap. Okay, I think I know where this is from. It says Vital, and that's because, well, that's right. It's a Vital preset. And I'm not sure why I made a direct wave preset out of this, but I guess that's going to be lost to time because I can't think of a reason why past me would do this. I can't think of any good reason why I would do this. Maybe to have control over the velocity, probably. That's like the only good reason I can think of. Because Vital doesn't really allow you to control velocity. Well, it does, but you have to route the actual like MIDI velocity to volume, which I didn't know back then because I was stupid dumb. And that's about all the layers that are going on in here. So when you combine all of these, they sound like these. Sounds pretty close, but it's still not it. There's some more processing going on behind the scenes. So first of all, there's a disperser. Then there's an EQ. High pass a little bit. And then there are some temporary filters and reverbs and delays that will only activate in certain instances. It's a reverb that stays there, very quiet. Not there, I guess. Oh, because we're on pattern mode. It's never gonna happen that way, of course. I guess it happens at the end of the phrase. Nope, not that. Okay. Maybe somewhere else. But yeah. And then I'm sending this track to a couple other tracks, which are these two that you're seeing here in that tiny mixer on the bottom right. And these two have a reverb send, right? So it's this. And then there's an ensemble to basically like detune the sounds a little bit. And then there's a crystallizer and a trans gate to make it a little bit more like right, like just more stabby. In fact, this trans gate is affecting only the crystallizer wet output. So that's why I'm doing a send here, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this way. So I have a crystallizer on full wet, and then that full wet is going to be transgated. So you get this underlying layer of, right? That's the crystallizer being transgated. Ensemble is basically like a detune in a way. Let's try it on the whole track, because why not? We have the master here, and it's just trying ensemble. Yeah, it's basically a detune. Because you can raise the unison voices. You can choose to detune them more. Yeah, it's basically like a standalone detune. And that's the full sound. All right. There's that reverb swell on the master. So on the sidechain bus, I have a toe reverb here for whatever reverb swells I want to do throughout the drop. See that? Goes up. So throughout the drop, I start to introduce some more sounds. This surreal bass loops. I pitched it down to D, which is there is, and there's filter automation in here. That's why it didn't play before. And let's just return the sizes here to normal. And yeah, there's a couple AU5 vowel growls, and then there's some bounces from Superliminal in here, right? And some Supernova pads from my Supernova sample pack. No, the full thing sounds like this. And I pitch it down. Pretty cool, yeah. I synced up this bass to sync up with the nan, so it does wow, whoa. See that? That's pretty cool. And in between these layers, I've got this square thing. So it's like doom ba doom ba. So it's basically like a very brief, a very short call and response. Like, first one is dry, and the second one is detuned. So yeah, it's just this very tiny detail. And then there's an ARP here. This is just a saw wave doing 2 octaves. A very basic saw wave. It's just a saw wave with a tiny, it's a very short pluck, tiny hinge on the pitch automation. And yeah, I just made it do 2 octaves because otherwise I found it pretty boring. And yeah, if you make it do 2 octaves, it sounds a lot more interesting. No, 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 no. And then what I did is I actually expanded this, the decay, with an automation. So it goes from being a very short pluck and it elongates itself. Right? And then there's the quintessential modus breath sample thing, which is actually just a Bejeweled Twist sample. I've used it in a lot of songs from this time period. So like in the past couple of years, I've been using the sample quite prominently. Yes, ska makes its return. There's another zero real bass up here. This time it's reversed. So yeah, it's like... There it is. And yeah, this is just doing some variations now. And then there's just this really cool variation where it just arpeggiates up. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. And you will see that each voice of this lead pluck pattern is doing different voices. So they're all like complementing each other. So the music box is doing the main thing, but the willpower lead is doing a different harmony. Na, 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 na. So it coincides with that fifth in there, right? Yeah, it's doing some reharms here and there. Yes, I use millimeters, but not during production. I only use millimeters for this stream. So on the feedback part of the stream, you'll actually see millimeters in action. But yeah, I do have it. It's actually open right now because I need it for the stream. But I don't normally use it during production because I just have all the tools for that. I have what's called track meter. I believe this is from DMG. Yeah, DMG Audio. It's an all-in-one analyzer. It has all sorts of different like spectrographs, scopes, 3D things. And you can change a whole bunch of stuff about all of these. It's just great. It's basically like your Swiss Army knife of visualizer, so I just use that. And then to build up to that end of this first phrase, got some super sauce in there. All right, that's those are gonna build up. The same bass loops. This is from Val's Galactica, actually. And then there's this ARP. That was also one of my samples. There it is. So these are all from my packs. And then this one again. This one's not here. This one was muted. And there's some unpacking to do here. So there's a growl from Glork Glunk. I believe this is from Glitch with Friends. Glitch with Friends, Volume 2. Yep! That has a filter on it, so this has a bunch of things going into it. On its own, it sounds like this. I've got an EQ, which is bizarre, to say the least. It does that, so there's this whole thing, and then there's just a high pass that's gonna go down and affect all of those bands. So it makes this really cool motion as everything just sort of adjusts after the filter, see? And then there's a resonator in here that does a bunch of chords. So it does D major, Na, 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 na. So it's actually D minor. Okay, there's that. So yeah, using that effect. Color basify. And then we've got a gross beat, basically doing the same thing as an LFO tool. I put it on a 1/6 beat gate. And I adjusted the release time so it would go from more stabby to more continuous to like smoother, right? So that's like no release, and all release, this all gets like smoothed out, right? So I'm just automating it. It becomes a little smoother over time. And there's just one final EQ to de-bloat some of that mid-end space. This is from Spectra, look at that! So yeah, these two were made more or less around the same time. And there's some bounced samples in here. That's what that sounds like. I'm not sure where this came from, actually. Na, 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 from that one. From that one bell sound. So I just pitched it down with Stretch Pro. I got that. And then I used a crowd chamber with the Fat Pack preset. I used this a lot in Mirage and Save Me as well. It got me some really cool detuned growls. And this is no exception. In fact, well, I just used it here with a synth. And then I used a bit of an auto pan here. And then I just had the sample replay. Bum, 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 bah. Right? And then that's not actually on. There's another sample, I believe, from the pre-save pack. Oh no, Chime Constellate sample pack. Okay, one failure. I got one of them wrong. All right, time to cancel me, I guess. All right, so there's that, and then there's an 85 sample. So this is a bass from Cryptochrome. It's basically that ending part of the sample. It's just that I really stretched it. See that? So just made it really long. And there's that. And then there's just some basses. And the same thing. Now there's a sub fade in and then the zap. And that makes up for all of that. And the snare has some delay for extra large effect. And well, you know this motif. You know this chord progression. Well, in case you don't know, I'll just let the original remind you. The original. So yeah, it's just that nice callback to the original. Some variation. And then it's getting mixed with the na 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 with that new motif. So yeah, when I was talking about that mix of old and new, that's more or less what we're talking about. They're like right next to each other, like old and new, right? So what's going on here is just there's this top layer. This is from Mansaw. I believe this is also from the Chime Constellate pack. Yep, nice. And then there's an agent pad in here. So that's building up as this whole section goes by. So there's that pad in there. It's very subtle, but it's there. And then there's this growl break. So it's got that synth from Crystal Clear 2. Right, and then right. And then it's got 2 basses from Val's Galactica. They're both different. I made sure they were phase aligned to some extent, right? So see how they're almost lined up, not quite. So they made for this like weird motion. So if I fully lined them up, maybe it wouldn't have sounded the same. Yeah, that phaser, that change in phase from one to the other actually gives it a slightly different sound signature. It's basically the same principle that I used in Superluminal, where I had so many layers that just flipping the phase of one of the layers gave me a completely different sound. So it's basically the same principle here. I use 2 very similar sounds and just shift the phase of one to get a completely different sound on each instance, on each repetition. And then you just layer that with the crystal clear chord, and you get crystal clear. And then there's just a Keanu Reason here, and an automaton. That's an automaton. Yep. It's just, I think it's a bit crushed. No. That's just how it sounds. Alright, and then there's an 808 sub pattern. This is a combination of sub basses, and then there's a bass guitar. And then what's happening is that there's some call and response going between the sub bass and this automaton melody. So it's like na 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 na, and then the automaton replies just a single beat later with na 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 na. See that? So they're like call and response. Sing again. And then they both end in this square note. A. And again. Okay, this time they both play together actually. So yeah, it's like they're done playing with each other and now they're just in unison. So there it is. So yeah, it's like we've got these chords from Crystal Clear, and in between each chord, we've got this like playful motion of sub bass versus automaton. We've got that sick reeds. Let's have a look at that. We gotta have a look at that. 3 layers. 3 very similar, but slightly phased differently layers. And it gives you that. Pretty like watery. Sounds pretty cool. And then there's this. So that's also from the first part of the drop. And then this wet growl from A5. Wow, that's pretty good. And then this is that's a Reese. That sounds really cool. And that's also from the Constellate sample pack. I believe the pack might have just come out at the time, and I was just experimenting with it. And I thought, okay, let's use this drag as a testing ground for that sample pack. And then I just repeated that to get that motion. And this is just a bounce of supersaws, and I just had a phaser on that, and I bounced it with the phaser. It's probably just this. So this is a frequency shifter on a very low value, but with the feedback turned up. So this creates a bit of a phaser effect. So, see that? And I basically bounced it with that. Just that. Some more steps in there. And then this is, there's some ARPs in here. So these are the high-end support, in a way. And then the actual sound is in here. That's with the engine start lead. Yeah. And well, just the bass, it just gives it that nice, powerful bass. There's that additional layer that's coming in. Nice details. This is from Laniakia Sounds Atmospherica 3. 3, 2, 1. Yep. It's almost wearing how much about these sample packs I know. Some ARPs here. Pretty sure it's from one of mine. Yep, it's Ultranova. And then there's some more resets. These are just doing the chords, doing the bass notes. And this is the saw passage that's being bounced here. Yeah, there's that. And then this... Okay, thanks for that note, Moto Bass. This final phrase, these last 8 bars are just basically a reprise of this whole theme that we've got going on, but with the notes, with the pluck from the first half, from the first half of the first half, because this is still the first half. So here it's basically going down. So whereas this we had an upward motion in the chord. Na 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 na. Right? And now we go down. So na 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 na. Right? So we go up and then we go back down, and it all just compensates. So it's like a zero-sum type phrase thing. I just came up with this phrase. Yeah. Na, 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 na. Yeah, there's both a music box and a piano, and just the piano. I can't even begin to describe this chord progression, so I'm not even gonna try. It just goes na na na, so it ends on that minor second, which I just love to use. That flat supertonic. I use it too much. Almost to a fault. I've used this all the way, like, since Superluminal to now. I've used it in like probably 80% of my tunes. It's actually like pathological how much I use this. It just sounds very Spanish. It sounds very me. Na, 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 na. So it does basically a flat supertonic with a 7th, na, 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 which equates to an E flat major 7 chord. Na, 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 na. Yeah, there's that. And with the music box, it's basically just doing the same. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of chords, just really large stuff. Yep. Ultranova pad. Some more things from Crystal Clear. So this acts as the 7th to the bass. Na, na, right? It can sound a little bit messy on the bass, but in context, it doesn't matter, right? There's that. And we go back to the breakdown, which has basically the same, is basically in the same style as the first verse. Right? Same thing. I've already went over it. I'm over the moon. I'm sharper than crystal. Push through the clouds. I'm terrible at this. I could have just copy pasted it and just done the exact same thing, and to an extent I did, but I changed a few of the last chords. So on the first version of this, on the first iteration of this, we had the same first chords. First 2 chords are the same, and then the cadence here is none, none, none. So it's very diatonic because it's like 5-1, right? It's like dominant tonic. None, none. And with this growl. And I could have just done the exact same, but that just sounded a little bit repetitive. So I did this very tiny change, which gave this breakdown a completely different feeling from the first verse, even though it's basically the exact same. Like, same. This is the same, but now instead of doing 5-1, it goes none, none, none. It goes 3-2-1, right? So median, flat, supertonic again, and then tonic. None, none. And the growls are different as well. This is a bunch of stretched growls. The original sounds like this. So yeah, that's a growl that I made. Well, half of it is from AU5's Growlzilla pack, and then I just probably resonated it, and then I reversed it, and it sounded like that. And then when you really stretch it, then I high passed it, and then I filtered it, and then I had some OTT and all pass fade. That filter closing and opening. All right, now it's not the time to make up words, Paul. And this is another sample from this track, so it's from Crystal Clear 3, as you can see. This sounds like beep map. So do you guys remember that one stream where we did bass jams with really obscure built-in like native FL Studio plugins, and one of them was beep map, and it constantly made stuff like this. It sounds a lot like what beep map would have done. I just did that, and there it is. And then there's this other one, which probably comes from the same sample, yeah. Yeah, there's that. And now we're already starting to tease. This is the first time we introduce another iconic leitmotif from the Crystal Clear series. So there's this iconic motif in the original as well, and it happens in the second drop or in the second build-up. It goes like this. Right, so there's that, and I'm already starting to reintroduce that. This is the first time we see it. Yeah, there's that. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. Oh my god, what is this? There's a bunch of stuff here. Okay, we gotta go over this, because there's a lot of channels going on here. I don't even know why I did this, why I didn't just separate this into different Dune instances. But this is Autumn Water, it's a Dune preset, and this looks very colorful, but it's kind of a mess because it makes it very hard to explain. So there's this voice here that goes na 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 na. That's the main melody. That's what it sounds like. We just solo this. If you take out the melody, you're left with just the bass notes, the na 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 na, and then you have this arpeggio, na 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 na. And then it does na 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 na, right? And then you finally get that melody back in there. And there's actually some harmonies in there. Na na na. And I presume this Dune patch gets filtered up. If we take out the music box and the piano, what's up? Okay, so there's a music box here. Not much to write home about. It's just a music box. It's doing pretty much the same stuff. And then we got the piano. Doing exact same thing as the Dune thing. Except that we don't have that same motion in here. So we have the piano just doing these two notes and the other going a little bit more. Yeah. So you hear one layer do its own thing. All right? Nice. That sounds pretty cool. I like it. As you can see, we've got the melody, and when the melody ends, we've got the chords right there to fill that gap. Dun, dun. And we've got this other ARP in here. This is another Dune 3 instance. And it's Cozy Keys, and it does this arpeggio. And that's just to ease the transition into the next part of the song. There it is. And then we've got a supersaw breakdown thing, pattern. It's just pads. It's basically the exact same as the first build. Yep. And then we've got a bunch of pads. These are all from Crystallizer. Background pad, Vital Mode collab. Oh, this is from Color Ringtone as well. Look at that. Cool. Just pushed it down. So this is a Vital Mode pad, and it's a sample from Color Ringtone. Interesting. We've got that pad from Crystallizer. So this is just a Crystallizer wet signal, which is based in a bunch of reverb. It just becomes this mush of continuous pad bell tree thing. And then another one that's just a little louder to make the whole thing a little louder. Yeah. The sax is actually in the mixing project, so we got a while left till we arrive there, but we will get there. And then we've actually got the bass doing a little solo of its own. And then the bass is actually doing something else as well. Ooh. Look at that. And there's a timpani in here, isn't there? Yeah. Look at that. Cinematic. And I actually thought about adding an impact here. It never happened. I don't think it would have worked. The reason for that is because this is not a downbeat. This is a 4. Yeah. Build up. So while there's this ARP going on, there's a supersaw filtering up. Some glass grain samples. It's from an AU5 donation pack. Was it you? Cool. Yeah. This is a pad I made from Bejeweled Twist. There's a track in there called Blitz Mode, right? And from there's a pad at the very end of the song that's just a really nice C major ending chord. I pulse stretched that and used it in Displays first. So from the Astral Realm EP. So if we take a look at Displays. That pad. I pitched it up, and that became a pad for this. Now, yeah, there's that, and then there's another Laniakia Atmospherica pad. And this. Some cool pads. And then a Bram, because cinematic. And then some drone pads and basses building in. Nice. No. This is bounced, but thanks, Paul of the Past, for telling me this is flex. Nice. And it's just being filtered, right? Yeah. I don't know if I have the Lex patch for this anymore. I don't think so. Breakdown time! Alright, so the studio drummer comes back in. It's a really busy section. And then there's just this constant underlying kick. You know? And then there's just the space. Alright. So it's just the piano does a melody, the bass reprises it. So another call and response. Pause. Call and response. I actually did try a mock-up saxophone, so Lex is gonna hate me for this. Or not. It sounds bad. It sounds terrible. I hated it. Sounds terrible because it's not the real thing. So I asked Lex to do it instead, and I'm pretty sure the only reason this is in here is because I needed to export. I needed to send him some sort of reference for him to record. So yeah, we will have a look at Lex's actual saxophone recording when we get into the mixing project. So yeah. Yeah, this is just, once again, we've got the piano doing some illegal stuff. Reprising the motif from the first drop. Some additions, why not? And some more variations. And we've got some additional harmonies. So na 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 na. If I have the chance to hide a lick, I'll take it. Na, 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 na. That's gotta be one of the smoothest licks. One of the smoothest lick references in my music. Yeah, I done that same movement here. An octave down. Got that nice diatonic ending. Got some glitch loops. Tracks up again. And then we've got a tiny bit of a glimpse from the first drop. We've got some claps here actually. Or they're actually from here. I'm not sure where this is from. Robin's sound back again? Yeah. But this is just a very organic sounding clap that I really liked for this. I just really liked how it fit with the underlying kick. You know, so sounded pretty cool. And when you combine this with another clap of mine that I had. Pretty quiet. It just adds a bit more tail to the whole thing, right? Right. Right. Got a silent riser. Some bounced super sauce. So we've got na 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 na, and then we do a pickety third. Got some more zap sounds. I believe this is from Supernova? Hypernova, okay. So the original sounds like that. You reverse it. Okay, no Modus song is complete without the Scarlet Harp. It has to go in there. It's subtle, but it's there. The Scarlet Harp quota is complete. I can move on with my life. And then there's a 303 harp from Silent, I think this is. Or is this just... Yeah, it is Silent. So there's actually... This is, I think, just the default patch that's in there. As soon as you open Silent, it comes with this patch. I just really liked this patch for this particular part. So just 303 harp it is. And then I just did the same but an octave lower. The different 303 harp. See that? It's just this really 1980s sound. I love it. It sounds so vintage. I love it. So retro. Yeah. And here, the piano does a reprise to Evoke's vocals. Right? So Evoke does, I don't wanna live stuck in the past. And then the piano goes and reprise that. So it's a nice detail that the instrumental and the vocal are working together in tandem, right? Got our snare roll. Because without it, it's not a build-up. We got our offbeat bass. And we've got our silent bass fills. Interesting. I don't think I noticed that in the final. Yep, it's barely there, but I just left it. Okay. Largest drop of all time. It's a little bit raw in here. The mixing project sounds a lot better. But yeah, this is finally where we conclude the song with the original leitmotif from Crystal Clear. So we have that sick lead. So it's a combination of a synth lead and an electric guitar. The synth sounds like this. This is what I needed to hear, the automation. Got that reverb with the space as well. So it's like really spacing out the very long notes. And then there's the guitar. Which just adds this really acoustic feel to it. Old and new. Right? It's just this really cool rendition of the original. Na, 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 na. A lot more arpeggios. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bum. In fact, if you take out the arpeggios, the melody is still the same. So we've got na 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 na, right? So this is just an add-on to the already existing melody in there. Ta-dun. Right? Now that's super cool. Glide down. And yeah, this is just wall of sound. So we've got supersaws and we've got some stabs. I believe this is also from the community samples pack that helped me make the first drop for Spectra. Yep. It's in here as well. It's just in the form of a layer. So there's a layer from Spectra just turned into down here. We got another supersaw layer. So we got, and then this. And then Val's Galactica bass. And some arps up top. And a sub for that massive wall of sound. And we've got some Xyland growls. So yeah, that's all from this power packs. We've got some high tops. These are from Val's Galactica as well, I think, because it says 6/4 D minor idea. That has got to be Val's Galactica. Wow! Ah, it's so cool. And this growl I actually did make, I think. I think this is a mixture of two Growlzilla growls morphed. So I did a morph and I morphed a growl with another growl. And then I color based that with a second morph. Right, so you get that. And you really compress it and you get that. Ah, so cool. It's just the peak feel-good vibes. It's so good. And now there are some more variations, right? Na, 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 na. And then the lead goes up an octave higher. And then I get the chance to incorporate some of the sounds from the first drop. So yeah, there's another call and response, this time between the old melody and the new melody. All the new! It's all connected. It's all over this track, the old and new dynamic, right? Production challenge. I am scared. What is this? Ah, these are just bass jams. Okay. What's this from? Oh god. A really long sample. So this is gotta be... Oh. Yeah, that's just a bass jam from 2022. November of 22. Interesting. And then I just reversed it. Wow, that's a really cool sound to get from a bass jam. What? And then another one. Woo! That's pretty cool. Yeah. And then I just used the pluck as a snare, because that's what you do. Boom. Yeah, to end the drop instead of ending it with the snare. I don't know, that just sounded mid. So it's just ending it with a plug. Again, bonus style points. Right? And we're basically reprising the same first drop, second half bit. We're doing it here, but now this time we're doing a 4 on the floor on the drums. So yeah, the smallest variation can make that sound interesting again. So yeah. Again, breeze. Same motif, same everything. The only change in here is that, well, the drums are 4 on the floor, and there's some more snare shenanigans going on. And now there's the cadence. In the first drop, it does na na na. There it is, na na na. So it goes from bottom up, and now it goes down, and now it's a downward motion. So it does na na na. Yeah, there it is. So it's basically the same piano ending phrase as the first drop, only that now I've added an additional octave to this arpeggio. Na 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 na. Right? And that's how you basically change up that same phrase to make it more second drop-esque. I don't know. And it hangs around for an extra bar. So yeah, that really tells you, okay, things are slowing down. There's nothing else after this, right? The pads also tell you as much, because it seems like they're going to build up to something else. But then they all go down, right? No, not quite. And the outro, it's the same as the verse, except that now we don't have vocals, and now we have a pluck in the place of Evoke. So instead of see through my soul, clearer than crystal, right, now we just have a pluck in his place. Basically, it tells you it's the end of the song. That's really cool. So I took this phrase that Evoke does. It's too late to look back now. Na, 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 na. And I did a reharmonization on it. In the beginning of the song, it's just one chord. It's just the tonic D. But now I reharmonized that melody with different chords. Na, 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 na. So I just did a chromatic motion on this. So there's right, so there's instant to love, but now it does so it's a chromatic motion down, and then the lead does without the lead. See that? And then, well, the saws do just as much. Except the saws actually just have the top line is just doing D. But in essence, it's the same chromatic motion down. Nice. And we got those like nice soft drums to end that whole phrase. Nice. I take the drums out and just let the melody end. And we got some leftovers with crystallizer from here. Right? Oh, we got this nice bass. Wow. Tasty. Nice. I don't wanna live stuck in the past. And there's a tempo automation that slows everything down. Alright? Slows everything down. At the very end, it's got that slow. And that's the song, at least the instrumental of it. Let's move over. Unless we got some canceled. Whoa, I didn't remember this. What's this? These are some cancel ideas, I reckon. Let's have a look at this. Ah, the fabled Sawwave init preset thing. I guess this eventually became the breakdown. Yeah, and let's have a look at this. So yeah, there's an alternate universe where the second drop is this. It goes a lot harder. Like, this is much darker, right? And I guess the reason I scrapped it is because it just wasn't fitting the rest of the vibe of the song. It's this really uplifting, peak feel-good vibes, and this just wasn't cutting it there. It's kind of like the antithesis of what I'm trying to go for with the song, right? What about this? So this could have been an alternate version of the verse, right? See through my soul, clearer than crystal. Take me far out. It's too late to look back now. It could have worked. It sounds like a generic bonus track. I'm pretty sure that's why I scrapped that part in particular. It was just too meh. Like, yeah, it sounded large, but there was nothing to write home about it. So yeah, let's move on over to the mixing and mastering project now. So now you're gonna finally get to see Evoke's vocals and Lex saxophone solo. Yep. All right. You're looking at the vocal processing, and that's the rest of it. Okay, that's all the stems loading. It's a really cool animation for everything loading. That's pretty cool. So yeah, we've got the mix. So this is the stem output, the stem export of everything. And I just did some mixing, but you don't want to see that. You want to see Evoke's vocals, right? Yeah, finally, the song is complete now.
Through my soul, clearer than crystal. Take me far out. It's too late to look back now. I am laid on. I don't wanna live stuck in the past.
So what just happened? Okay, I was sent the vocals from Evoke. I didn't have to ask him for re-records. Like, his first revision was it, I think. So I did ask him for one specific effect, and that's, you know how in pop songs, vocals usually sound like they're doubled. Like, it's not just a top line and then the chorus. So it's like a stereo recording, or like two recordings, one hard pan to each channel. And there's like this like doubling effect on it. And I asked him for it, and he delivered.
Sweep through my soul.
You get this detune effect, right?
Crystal.
As opposed to this.
Sweep through my soul.
That would have been the normal thing,
Crystal.
right? And that would have sounded good, but not great.
Sweep through my
There's something missing in there, right?
clearer than crystal.
Well, this is what's missing.
Sweep through my soul.
So he provided doubles, and we got one for the left channel,
Sweep through my soul.
and another one for the doubles.
Sweep through my soul.
I actually thought it was really thoughtful of him to remove the consonants and the sibilances on the doubles, because they're not necessary, because they're already in the top line. So why would you need two layers of sibilances, right? So I actually thought it was genius for him to do that, so I didn't have to do it myself. It saved a ton of work for me.
Sweep through my soul. Clearer than crystal.
And we just got that really pop, like mainstream poppy sound, which I really like.
Sweep through my soul.
This part of the vocal is completely dry. As you can see, there's an automation for the reverb and the delay, and they just go completely down in this part. Because this part is just meant to be fully dry. Just
Sweep through my soul. Clearer than crystal.
no reverb, no nothing, and then it finally goes up in there.
Crystal.
See it slowly going up.
Than crystal.
See that?
Take me far out. It's too late to look back now.
All right, let's have a look at the processing chain for this.
Sweep through
Because there's a bunch of things
my
going on.
soul. Clearer.
So first, I just organized the vocals from their order, from their priority, right? So main take, doubles, and then everything. And then we got the harmonies. So we got the ad-libs, like all of these.
I am made up my mind.
A bunch of layers going on.
I am made up my mind.
And they're just being routed here. And then they're all going to a single bus, which is where all of the effects are. And the effects are as follows. So if I turn this off, if I turn both of these off,
Sweep through,
that's the dry vocals.
sweep through my soul. Clearer than crystal.
And the final result,
Sweep through my soul.
pretty good.
Clearer than crystal.
So what we did is, first off, we've first of all got a noise gate. So this is just going to help me get rid of any noise there might be from his microphone on the silences. So just do that.
Sweep through,
And when he's not singing, just basically mute the sample.
sweep through my soul.
We've got a saturator with twin tube.
Sweep through,
Just basically boosts the harmonics a little bit. I'm saying basically way too much.
sweep through,
I should stop.
sweep through.
I'm pretty sure this is an EQ that does a high shelf boost. That or band 6 turns on at some point. This is probably to reduce sibilances at some point in the track. It activates on demand. I'm pretty sure it has an automation somewhere to activate. It's just there sitting idle. And then we have the actual vocal EQ. So I'm high passing here. So this is right around where Evoke's lowest notes are. So we don't need anything below that because this would just basically be rubbish at that point. So there's that. So
Sweep through,
that's the EQ. Without it,
sweep through my soul.
it just basically makes everything brighter.
Sweep through my soul. Clearer than crystal.
And we've got another EQ, which is a side high pass.
Sweep through,
This is a high pass on the side signal only. The lowest frequencies of this vocal stem, of this vocal track, are going to be mono, and then all the stereo information will be on the higher harmonics, right? So this helps with mono compatibility, but without taking the whole wideness of the track down, right? Without having to narrow down the entire track, which would have just made it more centered and just not as wide, and it wouldn't have helped with the double effect that I wanted for the track.
sweep through,
We have a glue compressor.
sweep through,
So now we're starting to see some of that compression work and like just getting to control those peaks.
sweep through,
Infinity EQ is really cool. Yep.
sweep through
I can attest.
my soul. Clearer than crystal.
So we got some pretty aggressive
Sweep
compression
through,
here to essentially bring down
sweep through my soul.
these louder peaks, right? So just stabilizing them.
Sweep through,
Yep, the reaction time is on 0.1 milliseconds on the attack and 0.4 seconds on the release.
sweep,
Pretty fast.
sweep through my soul. Clearer than crystal.
And now we've got a compressor.
Sweep,
Another compressor.
sweep through,
So I'm stacking several compressors, so we don't have one compressor doing all the work, and I can also split the load between the different compressors, and I can make each one of them do a different task. So I can task one of the compressors with doing the overall softer compression overall, and then I can use another one to aggressively reduce small peaks throughout the song. So we've got the overall smooth compressor and the really aggressive one for just like one-offs, right? Then we've got an instance of Golfos, and this is just a general, like almost soothe kind of thing, but it's not just subtractive, it's also additive.
sweep through my soul.
It's gonna help me with
crystal.
making the tonal balance of the vocal a little bit more uniform.
See through
Right?
my soul.
So I don't have to go around with so many EQs trying to make single adjustments on sections, on individual sections. And then I have an OTT.
See through.
Because in this case, I think Evoke's vocals really called for it.
See through my soul.
It really works with this very aggressive style of very heavily compressed vocals.
See through
It just works.
my soul.
So yeah.
Clearer than crystal.
And then we have an all-pass phase.
See,
An actual disperser on vocals.
see through my soul. Clearer than crystal.
We just have those
Take me
tiny, watery
out. It's too late to
transients in there.
now.
Okay, and then we have the actual like, reverb and delay. So we just have the context plugins now. So we have a chorus, which is right here.
See through.
So I have a chorus on 22%
Clearer
mix.
than crystal.
So very quiet, not a lot of wet signal. It does three chorus voices.
See through
Without it,
my soul.
that's what it sounds like.
Clearer than
Very
crystal.
detuned. So this just helps.
Take me.
It just helps us get a tiny bit further there towards that goal of like the double vocal effect, that like really poppy effect with the vocals, right? And then we've got reverb. It's a very short reverb. It's at 20% wet. It just gives us a tiny bit of like room space.
See through
See that?
my soul. Clearer than crystal.
Very tiny.
See through.
It just gives us a tiny bit of context. Without it, it just sounds unnaturally dry, you know?
See through my soul. See through my soul.
It just makes it sound a tiny bit more natural. Okay, there's a delay now.
See through my soul.
Very subtle, see that?
Clearer than crystal. Take me far out. It's too late.
I've put the wet signal on a high pass, so I don't get the lower frequencies of the vocal going, like feeding back into the delay.
See through.
That would be pretty hard to mix after that, right? So this is just a measure to make it easier for me to mix those lower frequencies, which are more important. Then we've got a total reverb,
See through my soul.
which is mostly off. There are some occasions where I'll turn this up. So on demand, on automation, I'll probably, yep, there it is. Like here, for example.
I have made up my
So this is like the really long space reverb.
wanna live stuck in the past.
Like there,
In the
right? For the very end of the build-up.
past.
So really spacing out those last words before we jump into the drop. And we've got a Freddie balance to mute the whole track in case we need to just do like a very sudden mute because the instrumental calls for it.
To look back now.
See that? It just mutes all of a sudden.
I
There it is. And then there's an EQ,
know.
some final correction, and that's the whole of the vocal processing.
Take me far out. It's too late to look back now. I have made up my mind.
So yeah, at the most, we have the main top line,
I have made up my mind.
and then we have the doubles,
I have made up my mind.
and then we have some additional voices,
I have made up.
some harmonies,
I have made up my mind.
we have some other ones.
I have my mind. I have made up my mind. I have made up my mind. I have my mind. I have made up my mind.
Nice.
Wanna live stuck in the past. In the past.
And then we've got some ad-libs here.
I just wanna feel your touch of glass.
That's not an ad-lib. This is an ad-lib.
No, 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 no.
There it is. And then that final note, I just let the instrumental do it. Right? with that square bump. Bump. Right? So we got the next section.
I'm over
Same thing.
the moon. I'm sharper than crystal. Push through the clouds. Take my hand and show me how.
Take my hand and show me how. I have no idea how he gets that high. He's so good. He's so
Push
talented.
through the clouds. Take my hand and show me how. 'Cause I have myself.
Got a bit more of that underlying reverb.
I just need for you to make me whole. Push for you to make me whole. Make me whole.
And then what I did is I took these vocals and I added a morph on them. So
See through my soul.
it's just a morph that I did here in the same project. Not here anymore, but yeah, it's just this with some super saws. So yeah. So what I did here is I let the harmony start first, and then we got some more layers in, and then finally the top line takes over. So it's like the vocal layers are like starting to slowly come in during this section. So it's like
I just wanna feel.
at the start there's just a few layers, and then the top line comes in, but it's pretty quiet.
I just wanna feel. Feel your touch of glow.
And then finally the full top line.
I just wanna feel.
All right.
Feel your touch of glass.
So yeah, there's an element of rising tension within the vocals themselves, within the vocal production. There's like more and more layers start to be heard, and then finally you hear the full stack. And then as for the mix, you know how it usually goes. I just take the instrumental. In this case, I think there was an issue that I had with plugin latency, and it's that I ran into an issue where I kept hearing a peak on every start of the beat. Like this. That thing. I had to put it out, right? And that was a problem that I had with the sidechain, with latency on the sidechain. So I had to painstakingly go on every single instance of the sidechain and fix it manually, which I don't wish upon even my worst enemy. But the result you get is a perfect sidechain. Perfect, flawless sidechain, free of pops, free of anything. Including on the drums. Yes, I had to do this on the drums too. It's actually incredibly tedious. And then once you're done with that, you just level things out a little bit, right? And then just things that you want to change or turn down, just one-off spots where you want to turn up or down certain things. And then you arrive at the master channel. And the master chain that I have for this is, first of all, an imager. That's just gonna narrow down a little bit of the low end and the low mids.
I'm stuck
So-
in the past.
Not of the vocal track, so we'll mute the vocals. So not too much, because we don't want this to be just one single straight line, because that's a very boring low end. We want it to pan around just a little bit. We want it to pan around. We want it to be safely wide, right? Same thing goes for the low mid. Low mid was going a little bit too much into the reds, so I just had to contain it a little bit. And then I did a soothe. It's set to sidechain, so this is actually doing vocal carving. Okay. Oh, look at that. So I routed the vocals into the instrumental, and I set the vocals into the sidechain input of soothe. So it's basically carving out. It's doing like a track spacer. It's carving out the content of the vocals out of the instrumental, so it makes a little bit more room for the vocals without having to raise the volume. So that would cause concern when you have to raise the limiter above what you want it to have the vocals anywhere near prevalent. And then you just have some final EQ adjustments, which I'm not sure why this is there. There's nothing in there. Okay, all right. And then there's just the limiter. Those final gain adjustments, just an automation. That makes it go louder in the drops. Because on export, this first drop was pretty quiet, so to make it, well, the loudness of a drop, I just had to raise it. So the build-up has to be turned down, and then that drop to really hit, you know? Then finally, we do have a Pro L for true peak. I've set it to minus 0.1, so the usual thing, just not letting the waveform clip to 0, right? And just having a slightly more smoothed out ceiling. All right, and then finally I just have a loudness meter to tell me where I'm at. In the first drop, because the first drop isn't actually that large, that noisy, it's measuring in around the -7, which is pretty solid. But if we head to the second drop, which was my benchmark here, goes into the -3s. Pretty loud for a modus track. So yeah. And no, I didn't forget the Lex Ruptor saxophone is here. So it's basically doing the same thing as the piano. So na 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 na. That's what the piano is doing. And then na 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 na. And I just asked Lex to reprise what the piano is doing in saxophone form. That sounds like a saxophone, because, well, that is the real thing. He actually has a saxophone that he can play. And so I did have to pitch up this section a little bit, because the original recording he sent me, I think it was a tenor sax or a baritone sax that he had. So he couldn't go that high on certain notes. So he had to record this at a slightly lower pitch. That's the original, right? And he very conveniently slowed it down so that when I pitched it up, it actually sped up so it matched the tempo of the song. Very convenient. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lex. There he recorded a bunch of phrases. Oh yeah, he went on to record a bunch of licks. It was... So I just chopped up a bunch of takes, right? And I made a lick out of those. And we had 2 octaves of these. Yeah, there it is. That sounds really sick. And there's that reverb automation on the sax as well to really space it out on the gaps where nothing's playing. Yeah. Sounds like the real thing, because it is the real thing. Congratulations, Lex, for getting on this track. And let's go. That's about it. Congratulations for sitting through the entire 2.5 hours that this breakdown lasted. All right, guys, so we have reached the end of the breakdown. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is about where the YouTube supercut ends. Those of you watching from YouTube that were not able to tune in to the stream, this is the end of the video for you. Thank you all so much once again for joining. I am Paul, aka Modus, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day, and you have a great rest of your day again, because I don't know what to say. Anyway, Paul, aka Modus, see you around!